Are you ready for chapter 3 in the story of Winky the Mouse? This is about the trip by Eagle from Tennessee to Maine. Dawn was breaking in the field. Now that's a funny way to put it. We know that what was really happening was the earth was continuing to rotate, and the field and oak tree where Jeffrey the Eagle and the mouse family were sleeping was now facing the sun so that its light was shining on them. Jeffrey began to move about, and that stirring woke up all the mouse children and Mumsy and Pop-Pop. They had rested well in the warmth of the eagle's feathers, but now they were hungry. Mumsy suggested that having breakfast at the foot of the big oak would be much easier than eating at the top of the tree, so Jeffrey, always willing to help, flew gracefully down to the soft grass. When all the children and Mumsy and Pop-Pop had climbed down with their baskets of food, Jeffrey flew off in search of his own breakfast. He had seen a nice river where he planned to catch a fish to eat. Mumsy knew that there was not a lot of time to fix things and eat before they would need to continue their journey, so she asked the children to help. Winky selected a smooth, flat rock where Mumsy could cook. Ben scurried around and found a patch of delicious red clover flowers to add to their porridge. Jasper found dry sticks just the right size for Pop-Pop to make a little fire to boil water. Button carried Mumsy's iron pot. Lily found a big curved magnolia leaf that was filled with just the right amount of early morning dew to fill the pot. Gloria found acorn caps under the oak tree to use for bowls. Fred carried the sack of oats to the pot so Mumsy could measure out just the right amount for the meal. Eloise found the spoons and brought them out. And little Sophie found the special checked tablecloth, laid it out on the soft grass, and waited impatiently for breakfast to be ready. Finally, Mumsy announced that the porridge was ready, and everyone gathered around and sat on the edge of the special cloth. Pop-Pop carried over the iron pot. I have to find the right page. Pop-Pop carried over the iron pot, and Mumsy spooned out the cereal into each acorn cap bowl. It was Winky's turn to say grace, so after thanking God for their safe trip to Virginia and for their delicious breakfast, he sang a little song. God has created a new day, silver and green and gold. Pray that the evening will find us worthy his gifts to hold. Jeffrey had returned from finding his own breakfast and joined the family in saying, Amen. After everyone had eaten all their porridge, with seconds of the sweet red clover, they all helped to clean up and then climbed up on Jeffrey's back. Once they were settled, Jeffrey explained that they were going to fly across all of Virginia and into West Virginia that day. A very long way, but the family was willing and looked forward to seeing all the sights from far above. After a few hours, though, the children were getting a bit restless. There began to be heard a few, "Are we there yet?" And "Can I change seats?" And "How much longer?" Mumsy, Pop-Pop, and Jeffrey talked and decided that a short rest on the ground would do everyone good. So they flew down to a small park with a little pond right in the middle of a city. The children all ran around, letting their little legs recover from all the sitting, while Mumsy and Pop-Pop found a nice little bush as shelter from the sun and lay down for a little nap. Before they closed their eyes, Mumsy reminded the children that they needed to watch the younger ones, especially little Sophie. So they played tag and Simon Says and looked for interesting things in the park. After a while, Mumsy and Pop-Pop woke up and announced that it was surely time to resume their journey. So Winky, Ben, Jasper, Button, Lily, Gloria, Fred, and Eloise all ran over to where Geoffrey the Eagle waited for them to climb aboard. They were all chattering and laughing about what fun they had had in the park when suddenly Winky called out, "Oh no! Where is little Sophie?" Everyone stopped talking and began running around, calling her name. "Sophie, where are you?" They looked under all the bushes, in the tall grass, and up in the big trees that circled the park. No Sophie. They looked all around the edge of the pond. No Sophie. They looked everywhere. No Sophie. The children began to cry. What could have happened to her? She was right here with us. Mumsy and Pop-Pop were very worried. They went to Geoffrey, who agreed to fly. Our pages are sticking together today. He agreed to fly over the park to see if he could spot her. Up he went and slowly circled the small park, looking with his keen eyes for every inch of the ground. No Sophie. As he was about to give up and return to the family, he made another turn and looked across the busy street that ran all around the park. There were two little mice in the middle of the road, with traffic whizzing by on both sides of them. One of them was little Sophie, and she was holding the hand of a much smaller mouse who was crying. Geoffrey quickly pulled both wings firmly back against his body and swooped like an arrow down from the sky. The traffic was noisy and smelly and very scary for even a big bird like an eagle. But he knew it was worse for the two little mice in the middle of the road. So down he went. As he was almost there, he saw a big truck swerve toward the little ones, and he knew that he had to do something drastic. He reached out his sharp talons and grabbed little Sophie by the back of her dress and the other little mouse by the back of his shirt, and he plucked them in the nick of time out of harm's way. The brave eagle quickly flew into the park and landed where the family waited. All were overjoyed at the return of little Sophie and hugged and kissed her over and over. There was not a dry eye in the bunch. After Geoffrey was thanked and told what a brave thing he had done and how they were so grateful he was their friend, Winky noticed the new little mouse, still clinging to Sophie's hand and sobbing. "Sophie," Winky said, "who is this? And why were the two of you in the middle of the busy street?" "Well, I was exploring the flowers at the edge of the park, and I saw Petey here, stuck in the middle of the street. He was crying and couldn't go either right or left because of all the cars and trucks whizzing around. I didn't know what to do, but then all the traffic stopped for just a minute, and so I ran, quick as I could, out to where he was. I thought I could bring him here when the cars and trucks stopped again, but they just kept coming and coming. We would still be there if Geoffrey hadn't found us and lifted us out of there. Thank you, Geoffrey." Mumsy could see that between the scary traffic and the scary ride in the clutches of the big bird, Petey was having a hard time getting calm. So she went over and gave him a big hug. "How did you get stuck in the middle of the street, Petey?" asked Mumsy. "Well," snuffled Petey, "I was walking along with my mother, and I stopped to look at some neat stuff in the window of the toy store over there. When I looked up, she was gone. I thought she might have gone to the park because that is where we were going when she finished shopping. So I started across the street to look for her. But then there were too many cars. It was really scary. I didn't know what to do. And then Sophie ran to me and took my hand. She said to not be afraid, that she would stay with me and we would get across together and find my mother. But then I saw the big eagle swoop down. I thought it was a goner for sure. But Sophie said, "Don't be afraid. That is my friend Jeffrey. He will save us." And she was right. But now I still don't know where my mother is. "Oh my," said all the mouse family children. "We will help find your mother." So they ran again all over the park and looked under the bushes and up the trees and around the pond. No Mother Mouse. Then Winky, standing carefully at the edge of the park, saw a Mother Mouse scurrying back and forth on the sidewalk on the far side of the street. "I'll bet that is Petey's mother," he thought, and ran back to where Jeffrey, Mumsy, and Pop-Pop were trying to console little Petey. "Come, quick, I think I've found her." Thinking quickly, Jeffrey said, "Climb on my back, Winky, and we will fly over to her. If I go alone, she might be too afraid, but if you are there, she will know that I am a kind eagle, and she will trust you and let me fly her over to Petey." And that's what they did. Petey's mother was so happy to see Petey and so grateful to Jeffrey and all the mouse family that she invited them all to a little place she knew about on the far side of the park for tea and cookies. After all of the excitement and the refreshments, Mumsy and Pop-Pop had to remind the children that they still had a very long way to go before they reached West Virginia, and so they said goodbye to Petey and his mother, climbed on Jeffrey's back, and flew up and over the trees in the park, smiling and waving goodbye to their new friends. After many more hours, they arrived in West Virginia, and those adventures will wait for another day.